The Leafs are on a 3-game losing streak. The top players are not playing like they're top players, and the coach has everyone in Toronto hating him. On top of that, this morning, we wake up to a tweet that says that there could be changes coming here in Toronto, breaking down whether or not these changes could be coming, whether they need to be coming, and if we can believe this report. Welcome back to Third Man In. I'm Zack Phillips, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down recent reports about could Sheldon Keefe be on his way out in Toronto. But then after that, we'll dig into a little bit about whether or not I actually think that he should be. This is going to be a bit more of an opinion piece video and less so about some stat or factual based thing that's going on. But these are what are currently happening here in Toronto, and the top stories that are breaking across everyone's screens when you woke up this morning. And we're going to first and foremost start with the rumor that took place here. That would be coming from Hockey 24/7 at IamHockey1 on Twitter. He tweeted out this morning and got everyone in Toronto going into a frenzy. Breaking news. Leafs ownership, president, and GM are having a meeting this morning / early afternoon. Looks like a coaching change is coming. Stay tuned. All right. This is what I'm going to say in regards to that tweet. For those of you who don't know, for those of you who are not on Twitter, there is an account out there with about 10,000 followers on Twitter at IamHockey1 who might be the least reliable Twitter account in the history of NHL hockey Twitter accounts. This Twitter account is strictly rumors. There is no one on Twitter who posts more just throwing crap at the wall and hoping it sticks than at IamHockey1, Hockey 24/7. I don't know if I've ever seen a report come out of this guy that is factual, which almost makes me actually feel worse about this situation, given the fact that I think myself and a lot of people in Toronto are looking for some type of coaching change to take place here. The fact that this guy is going out of his way to tweet it out that there is something coming and to stay tuned because a coaching change might be on the horizon, it makes me feel like there's less and less likely of an opportunity for Sheldon Keefe to be on his way out the door and for a new voice to be coming into this locker room. I cannot rely on this tweet at all. I don't trust this guy, but I think it's worthwhile to take a moment to talk about whether or not this actually could be the case. So I just want to clear the air there on that one. If you see this guy, first and foremost, at IamHockey1 or Hockey 24/7 popping up in any articles or anything and it's being taken as fact, just take a breath, walk away, because this guy, or this person, I don't think that they've hit on anything that they've ever reported on Twitter. I don't know. Like, we could go back and look at the historical accuracy, but I'm going to first and foremost tell you guys, just watch out for this one, because this person, terrible information source, terrible reporting. Let's get into whether or not they actually should move on from Sheldon Keefe, though, because there's something else that took place here this morning that is fairly interesting when it comes to the Leafs land and whether or not changes will actually be coming with this team. And it's actually fairly concerning to me. So what I want to dig into first and foremost is Elliotte Friedman. Apparently on his podcast this morning, he talked about the fact that apparently the Leafs might not be buyers at the trade deadline. And now it's hard to kind of process this information because first and foremost, every single year that you have Austin Matthews on your team, you should be buying. You should be a competitive team. Like, this whole idea of retool, rebuild, wait for a couple of years, then you figure things out, let some of these contracts go away, and then just try to pick it back up and go and be competitive again, I think is the most insane conversation ever, because you're paying a guy $13.25 million. You're also paying a guy 11.25 or 11.5 now with William Nylander. Like, you're paying a lot of money to a couple of guys here to sit here and think that you're going to have to wait for a couple of years to now be competitive again, and then you're just going to take a year or two off in this phase of you paying these guys. I think that is insane. That is a horrible decision. That is horrible building from previous regimes to get to this point, to be in this problem situation that you're currently in right now. So I think that that's ridiculous. That being said, I kind of understand what Elliotte is saying here. Is this Leafs team realistically good enough to win a Stanley Cup? I don't think so. I have adamantly been arguing about this over the last couple of months watching this team, and it's not necessarily because of the roster construction, it's because of the mentality that goes on in every single game that these guys go into. For 7 years leading up to this year, we watched the same thing. For the first couple of years, he said, they're rookies, they're learning. And then it was like, okay, year 3, year 4, you're like, okay, well, maybe you could have learned by now. And then it's 5, 6, 7. And the response that you're coming away with at the end is, well, they're learning. They're getting better. They're going to figure things out. It's a learning experience. Well, when does the learning stop? Because at some point, you got to take what you've learned and actually apply it to be able to take it to the next level and start winning rounds and go on and be a team that can compete for the Stanley Cup. This team right now has shown no signs of growth, no signs of learning, or being able to apply these learning lessons that they've picked up over the last 7 years. And it feels like your core guys are the ones that are really the problem here. So if your core guys are the problem and your core guys are not going to be able to lead you over that hump, I can see what Elliott's saying in regards to why would they be going out and wasting first-round picks and assets and young prospects that you have to go and add to this team that realistically is just a team that's going to go to the playoffs. Like, are you just going to the playoffs for the sake of going to the playoffs? Because right now, these guys have shown you nothing to say that, hey, we deserve to have pieces added to this team. They just haven't. They've not proved that, whether it's from their intensity, whether it's from their lack of consistency, whatever. So then the other idea here is, okay, you're not going to waste those pieces and go out and trade because you're not going to want to risk having added all this stuff at the deadline or leading up to the deadline, moving out guys that are in your prospect system to bring in people who are going to be on rental deals, only for this to fall flat on its face again and prove yet again these lessons have not been learned. So the alternative here would be you cannot waste a season. You just can't. And I can understand from the side of, yeah, maybe you don't want to go all in, balls to the wall, trading assets and picks for people to come in at the deadline to try to make a drastic change, a last-minute fix ahead of the trade deadline or at the trade deadline. But then the alternative would be to change a coach. Because if you can't make a trade, if you can't make an improvement to your lineup, to your roster going into the trade deadline, if you can't do that, you need to make something happen elsewhere. Otherwise, you are waving the white flag and admitting that this is a failed season. And I don't think you should do that because you could bring in a coach here who could come in, maybe help out, change the direction of the team for the remainder of the season. Maybe they can survey the landscape, tell you what works, what doesn't work, what needs to change, who needs to go, who needs to stay, what pieces they need to make some type of contending team going forward. You can still find potentially the right coach out there. Maybe that guy's on the market, and maybe his name is someone like Craig Berube. Maybe you bring that guy in, he joins this team right now, and then even if he gets this thing a little bit on course and he can start to guide them in the right direction, maybe it doesn't fully catch to the point where they light on fire and they go and win the Stanley Cup this year, but maybe it's something that continues to build the culture for the next season. Because now if you're not going to make these trades at the deadline, if you're not going to go out and move assets to bring players in, at least get yourself in the right direction. Otherwise, this is a complete waste of a year. Like a 100% waste of a year. Because then you fail this season, you fire Sheldon Keefe in the offseason, you bring a new guy in, he's starting from ground zero. He's not familiar with the team, he's not familiar with the organization, the players, he doesn't really know other than from watching from afar. The Vancouver Canucks executed this to perfection last year. Everyone thought it was a weird and terrible thing that they did and how they handled getting rid of Bruce Boudreau. I would agree with that. I think that was not handled properly. But what they did do right is bring in A, the right guy, B, with the guy with the right mindset, and C, at the right time. Because he got in there, Rick Tocchet came into the team, he got to take a look around and say, these are the things that work, these are the things that don't, we're going to start to instill this culture. And he used the remainder of the season to start building up this culture that has now proved to be an excellent decision into this season. I think if you're not going to go all in at the deadline and start moving these assets, you need to make a change with the coach right now. I don't know if it's just the guy at the top. I don't know if it's the full staff. I don't know if you got a clean house here and just start again from that standpoint. But if you're not going to trade players, which I don't know how you go out and make some trades that actually change things here with this team, I do strongly believe you need to go out and get a different coach in here to change things around. Start to change the culture, start to change the attitude, hold guys accountable. If you're not going to do it this year, if you know and you've identified you're not going to be a buyer, you're not going to be a team who can win the Stanley Cup, start to make some cultural changes, start to make some organizational changes. I think that not doing that would be a massive failure for this organization this season. Those are my thoughts on the coaching. Also, a massive warning to those of you out there who are following at IamHockey1, Hockey 24/7. If you see anything coming out from that guy, be cautious, because I think his hit rate is about 0% on the shit that he throws at the wall. It's pretty tough from that standpoint, so be careful. And then those are my thoughts on where we're at with the coaches, whether or not I think that they should actually make some changes, and the reaction to the Elliot Friedman comments earlier today. If you did enjoy the video here today, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe here to the channel, turn on notifications. You get notified every time videos like this drop, every time we do post-game live streams, or if we go live to watch along a game. I do appreciate all the support. I appreciate everyone who tunes in to all these videos. I want to know your thoughts below. Let me know in the comments. Should the Leafs fire Sheldon Keefe? Is this something too late? Also, who's the coach that they should bring in? And on top of that, is this just a lost season? Let me know in the comments. I look forward to reading all of those, Leafs fans. Thanks so much for tuning in. As always, keep believing.